Hello, Pastor Kyle here. Thank you for joining me for one more Holy Week 2020 video devotion. It's Holy Saturday. We know of, or you may know of, Maundy Thursday and Good Friday. Good Friday a little bit more well known. Maundy Thursday, some people have trouble thinking of how to pronounce Maundy, often confused with Monday, which is also very strange, Monday, Thursday. But then Good Friday. We don't really know what to do with Holy Saturday. Some have called it Holy Saturday or Black Saturday or other things like that. And it's not one we would typically have, at least in the Lutheran Church, typically have a worship service for or anything like that. But maybe that's appropriate because we also wonder what it was like for the disciples, those who had been followers of Jesus, those who had been friends and students of Jesus as he walked this earth. They had to have no idea what to do at this moment, afraid that they might also be taken into custody, that they might also, with the victory or perceived victory of religious leaders in Jesus' day, thinking that they had won the battle and they might want to try to eradicate the whole little movement of Jesus and arrest his followers. So they were in hiding and just reeling. If you've ever had just a major loss, somebody that was really close to you that passed away, a parent, a spouse, a child, you really are, in so many ways, for at least a year, in a little bit of a fog. And certainly in the first days and weeks, you just move forward. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you're just stuck. And they had to have been just stuck, besides the fear. So they were all in one space, just waiting. And they didn't even know what to wait for. They didn't know what tomorrow was going to bring. They knew that Jesus had died. They knew he was buried. They knew his body, where his body was. And that's all they expected from that, just how to move forward. So Holy Saturday. But the Bible tells us some other things. A strange thing is in 1 Peter. 1 Peter in chapter 3. It says in verse 18, "For Christ also suffered once for sins, the righteous for the unrighteous, to bring you to God. He was put to death in the body, but made alive in the spirit. After being made alive, he went and made proclamation to the imprisoned spirits." It's just a very strange few verses, kind of tucked away, that a lot of people have no idea what to do with. After being made alive, he went and made proclamation to the imprisoned spirits. So it says, "To those who were disobedient long ago when God waited patiently in the days of Noah while the ark was being built." So Jesus was preaching, made proclamation to people who had been disobedient back in the days of Noah. So there's this tradition or this kind of understanding that while Jesus was in the grave, he wasn't just resting. He was busy in the Spirit, busy preaching, busy with people, the spirits of people who had died. Maybe the ones from Noah's day, maybe a bunch of others. These are the only ones that are mentioned by Peter. We really don't know. But I'm not surprised by that. I'm not surprised by that, because if he died for us and all of humanity, that he would still be busy bringing that news to people. In fact, in Romans chapter 5, it says, page turn. Since we have been justified by his blood on the cross, how much more will we be saved from God's wrath through Jesus? Since while we were enemies, we were reconciled. While we were enemies of God, because we are selfish. Without Jesus, our motives, as loving as a person could possibly be without Jesus, there's still selfishness in that. And when we're selfish, when we're not living for God, then we're separated from God, and that selfishness and stuff cannot survive in God's presence. But this is the whole reason that Jesus died and was raised and went back to heaven, went back to God, so that we would be changed and transformed to the way that God intended for us. Our destiny is being reconciled with God. Our destiny is purity and holiness, and our destiny is pure love. So while we were God's enemies, we were reconciled to him through the death of his Son. We're no longer enemies because of Jesus dying for us. So if while we were God's enemies, we were reconciled to him through the death of his Son, how much more, having been reconciled, shall we be saved through his life? Well, Jesus is alive now. Of course, he's alive with God. He continues to live for us. He continues to be our advocate. He continues to be working in us and through us. It didn't just end on the cross. It didn't just end being raised from the dead. And then Hebrews 7. Now, there have been many of those priests, and these are priests from centuries ago, priests before Jesus, who did what they did to bring sacrifices and to pray for people and all of that stuff. There have been many. Since death prevented them from continuing in office, there had to be somebody else that would take their place. But because Jesus lives forever, he has a permanent priesthood. Therefore, Jesus is able to save completely those who come to God through him, because he always lives to intercede for them. Jesus lives to be an advocate for you. Jesus lives to be on your side, to pray for you, to be for you constantly, always. So I'm not surprised to think that while the early disciples were just in a fog, were dazed, didn't know what to do because of Jesus' death the day before. On this Holy Saturday, Jesus was still at work and continues to be at work today for you. So I can't wait till tomorrow. Bless you today, this Holy Saturday.